It's so funny, like trends that start, right? The first trend, we had this pandemic. It was a novel coronavirus. We knew it came from China. And then all of the, the corporate messages that came out from big brands, consumer brands, in these uncertain times, in these turbulent times, these intense times, and
out of an abundance of caution.
Out of an abundance of caution. It's like, okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to another FUTRtech video podcast. Today, we want to give an update about the eMERGE 2020 Chicago conference. And with us today, we have Adam Voss from Echelon Design to help us talk about it, who is the producer for the event. And as always, I have with me Sundish Patel. Sundish, say hello.
Hello everybody. Thanks for having me, Chris.
So the big news is that we had originally scheduled the conference for April, end of April. We had to cancel that due to the coronavirus. We rescheduled it for the end of October. But the reality of the situation is that we are not going to be able to do the conference in October. So we are canceling that, and we're going to figure out when we can do it next. And the reality is that whether or not the pandemic is still raging in October, there's been a big financial impact to the pandemic. And for startups and emerging tech companies, they need to be focused on generating revenues, and they need to be focused on their business right now. And this is not a great time to hold a conference, obviously. So we are going to respect that these companies need to do that, and not just respect that, but encourage them to be successful in what they're doing, because we do believe in the companies who are sponsoring us very much. And so we're going to look to when it will be possible to put together another conference. We don't have a date or time or anything figured out just yet. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to be doubling down on the content that we've been producing on this channel and try to produce as much content that brings you the value that we were trying to bring from the eMERGE 2020 Chicago conference. And so, Adam works in this business, and he's been doing a lot with trade shows historically, but now his business has changed dramatically, just like we have changed dramatically. So, I wanted to bring Adam back, who is one of the first guests of our podcast, and, just get an update on what the state of the industry is from him.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 15 years since I've talked to you two guys.
Yes,
so
it's complicated.
It's nice to be back on the show. And I also want to congratulate you for holding out. I mean, CES just a few days ago tapped out and said, it's due to health and safety issues, and also I think concerns about, companies operating budgets to actually get people to and from Vegas. They just canceled CES. So you guys, you beat the biggest technology show in the world. So kudos to you. And I think it's a really smart move. At the end of the day, it will probably be, late 2021 where I think people are comfortable again to travel for live shows, activations, trade shows, concerts. And at the end of the day, finance, business, technology, it's predicated on kind of behavioral science, how comfortable people feel. And if, you're as crazy hypochondriac or OCD as I am, which a lot of technologists are, it's probably a better bet to use this time and resources and to create your own content. So kudos to FUTRtech and the podcast. It's funny because I think it's kind of the accepted reality now. People have talked about disruption for years as a marketing word, and now you're seeing a real disruption. The confluence of COVID-19, this novel coronavirus, of the Trump administration, of racial tension and Black Lives Matter, with this looming economic depression, and the Fed releasing the GDP numbers for Q2 of 2020, which like dropped over 35 points. I mean, this upcoming presidential election that Trump is suggesting we postpone. I mean, there's so many things out there, and just
and don't forget baboons wielding knives and chainsaws.
Yeah, what was that?
2020,
right?
It's 2020, man.
2020. And I think that's at the end of the day, that's going to be a meme. I think that survives the next decade. People think about 2020 and, hail, fury, cats and dogs falling in love, divorce, death. It's all going to happen. And I think accepting that and being honest about that and talking about that is one thing that has been a really nice silver lining about this whole situation, is that we've really humanized business in a way that we've never done before. We've we've removed the delineation between your home and your office. We've started having more honest conversations. I think people are more camera friendly. In the past, when you'd have video conference calls, the camera feature would be turned off. That would be most people's defaults. And now
it's a very different world now.
Even spiking the lens. I'm not actually looking at my screen. I'm looking at a camera, and knowing that I can hear your voice and I can see you below my camera, but I'm looking at a camera. That people are learning how to communicate in this new world where it's a technology bridge. And as you guys are technologists, innovation leads. So the pivot to podcasting, or creating insights, trends, perspectives, talking to people, just having a conversation strategy, as was coined by the marketing guru Andy Crestodina of Orbit Media. I mean, a conversation strategy is not a PowerPoint deck. It is an honest way to relate to another human being about the industry you work in, and what are things that you see happening, and how can you add value, and how can you grow and learn.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I see happening is I think there's a real need for good content, because I think the thing is that so many companies have been used to sort of marketing as usual and just putting out their press releases and like here's the new product we're launching and things like that. But there's no real engaging content there. There's no personal message there. And I think the thing is that one of the challenges that I keep seeing on all these platforms is that when we're having these Zoom conference calls, the quality's so low. And I think when you improve the quality with good video and better audio, it makes a difference, right? And then, taking that next step, it's not just the production values of the things that you're putting together, but it's also the content, the quality of the content, the personal nature of the content, the storytelling of that content is what's really making a difference now. And I think that's a big leap for a lot of companies, for a lot of people. I mean, Sundish, we talk about this all the time, about how uncomfortable it is to get out there and, where you're sort of generally historically a private person, like going out and putting yourself out there and exposing yourself in this sort of manner is really challenging for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very challenging for me, but I had you. So I had you basically pushing me off that cliff, right? Like I can't, but I love how you did it too. Like you made me do it. You set the date, you made the time, told me don't prepare at all. We just got to get into it and just do it. And I trusted you, and it's amazing, dude. It is. Like I'm feeling more and more comfortable. When you tell me things like you got to stop being so critical on yourself. You're gonna make mistakes. You did a great job. Just to remind yourself to stay positive on it, and that this is a journey. And so my journey has started, and it's awesome. It's
or even just simple things like removing the Marquis de Sade pleasure swing from behind you, or the volumes of the Kama Sutra. I mean, things like that really invite people into your home.
Well, it depends on the people, I suppose, but yeah.
Exactly.
No, but I think the thing is that it's when you start, you're never going to know what your voice is, right? You have to discover what your voice is, and the only way to understand that is to do it. And I think a lot of people just need to get past the self-criticism and get out there and start producing things, because then you can understand what what you need to do and how you need to do it, right?
And I think most people have legitimacy and expertise. They're tenured. They know their industry, especially people in their 40s and 50s and 60s that we're talking to in these interviews. They're experts in their own right.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the big thing is, I think you just need to stand out from the crowd because
Yes.
People have a limited amount of attention, and there's an enormous amount of stuff out there, right? Mm-hmm. And I think and this is where we talk about brand and how important brand is, because I think when you establish your brand as somebody who's going to provide worthwhile and interesting content, then people are going to gravitate towards that, right? And there's a different approach to how we market ourselves and our companies and our products that we need to take that leverages brand in a very different way than we've historically seen it leveraged. Wouldn't you agree?
The way you position something and the thing that you say, what is your perspective? It's a share of channel and a share of voice, and those two things together get you a share of wallet. People will buy or become fans of the things that they like, and fans build brands, and the more people you can touch or connect with, the better your brand will do. It's like YouTube. I think about YouTube, and this is the perfect generation for YouTube, right? Because you don't need to be bona fide to start your own channel. You just need to you need to have something to say that attracts people to listen. And it could start out that 20 people see your video, and that becomes 200 people, and that becomes 2,000 people. And the more that you have something to say, the better it's going to be. So, and the more you do it, the better you'll learn.
Well, and the thing is, we always talked historically about being a trusted advisor. We always want to be a trusted advisor to our customers, right? But this is no different. Being an influencer is a trusted advisor sort of position, right? It's sort of different than sort of selling makeup to kids online, but the underlying concept is still the same, right? I mean, it's you're sort of building a brand around having reliable and good information, and you want to you want to develop an audience that appreciates that, right?
Right. And I think to that point, Chris, I think that's what we're trying to do right now, is trying to get these customers to trust us through the content that we're creating, right? But I think there's an inflection point, and I want to know what you think about this, right? So in our industry, in IT, we've traditionally, you work at a company and then you go to market and you try to sell your company's solution, service, product, and you use their marketing, right? Traditionally, that's the way we've gone to market. But now what you're saying is influencer marketing, and how each individual now is going to have their own brand, right? I think at some point, like you and I have had to navigate that a little bit too, because we always want to be respectful to who we work for. At the same time, we are in this change where who you are as a person, people want to know,
Yeah.
People now want to know, it's like this combination of like LinkedIn and Facebook, right? It's not enough just to see what's on LinkedIn. They really want to know, what does this guy think? What does he feel? And I think when you create that content, you can get that sense of someone. But I think there's going to be some conflict in the market with that. But like, what do you think is going to happen?
Can I comment really quick?
Yeah.
The conflict in the market, I think, happens because traditionally we have a very professional persona when we go to clients and we become those trusted advisors. And I think, you're now seeing that digital identity that has been kind of cloaked in anonymity coming more to the fore. As I mentioned, earlier, the default way of joining a video conference call was with your camera off.
Yeah.
That has changed since COVID, and it will continue to change. And what the expectation will be of you and your personal brand is that you show up, that you're present, that you have, you have more to say. It's that kind of YouTube phenomenon where it's like, it's not enough to make one video every month. You have to make several videos a day in order to get into the kind of the zeitgeist of that industry or that position that you're speaking to. So I don't know. I mean, I think now we don't need to be as professional. I think now we I've seen some of my clients go from very conservative branding to starting to ease up on that, to starting to see like, well, how can we engage more people on a very human level?
Right. Well, because we're all working from home and our kids are screaming in the background. We've got dogs roaming around. I mean, it's like everything is personal now.
Yeah, everything
right?
is.
So why shouldn't the marketing and branding and discussions and communication reflect that? Right.
So,
I mean, but the thing sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sandesh.
No, because I have a question for both of you guys on this. Do you think we'll get to a point where companies will invest in certain individuals at that company to, help them establish a brand in the market? Because think about it, right? If you're a salesperson or you're in real estate, you're a consultant, of any kind. If you want to create your brand, does that mean that you have to invest that in yourself? You have to buy all the required equipment, learn all of these things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think companies have to take advantage of the people in their organization that can help them, leverage and create that brand. I think that it's sort of it's a new role in a company, right? Mm-hmm. Is sort of a brand ambassador or thought leader within a company, and not just one, but maybe multiple, right?
Right.
And finding the individuals who can do that and giving them an opportunity.
And they could be in all parts of the organization too, right? It could be an executive, it could be somebody in the field, it can be anybody.
But the thing is, like, I see so many companies really struggling and challenged with this, and I think the biggest thing is two things: is sort of the production value that they're bringing to it. I think it's so poor quality that it the message gets lost in that. But the other thing is that the quality of the content isn't there, right? I mean, it's like I said before, it's just sort of those same bland marketing message and product announcements that we've seen before without having that sort of personal connection, that engaging content. And there's so much noise in the marketplace right now. You have to do something to really stand out. And I think companies really need to refactor how do they go to market with things, because this is the new normal.
Right.
I don't think this is going away anytime soon. People are not going back into the offices in the numbers that they used to. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
So this all needs to be figured out, and there's a lot of aspects to it. It's not just a simple one size fits all sort of equation, right? Mm-hmm. There's different tools that you need to bring to the game, and that's a really tricky thing for a lot of organizations to figure out.
So, Chris, what would you recommend right now? A startup or a technology company in the Valley, marketing from a marketing perspective, given that they used to have conferences and so on and so forth. What do they need? What skills do they need? How do they need to change it from an organizational perspective? You know what I mean?
Well, I think the first thing is you got to start with looking at what it is you're offering, right? Because I think what you may have been building towards 2 years ago may not be what people want today. I mean, things have changed drastically, right? And priorities have shifted, enormously. So I think you need to take a hard look at what you're building and producing and selling, and say, is this something that's going to matter in the market today? And maybe there's a pivot that you need to look at, or refocus on a different aspect of your product that is relevant to the market, or look at a different use case that you hadn't perhaps previously considered. Right. I think that's the first piece, and then I think the next piece is just saying getting out there and talking about what it is that's going on in the market, and why this is going to be relevant, and why this is important, why this is something that companies need to think about, and what does it mean to them personally, and how to engage them in sort of a more compelling story. I mean, I always love there's the vlogger Casey Neistat, and I think he was sort of one of the originals out there, right? And I think what he always talks about is the 3-act story. And
every good story follows this rule. That is the rule of a 3-act narrative. You've got a beginning, you've got a middle, you've got an end. Setup, conflict, resolution. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, Act 1. Jack fell down and broke his crown, Act 2. Jill came tumbling after, Act 3. Setup, conflict, resolution.
The whole story takes an arc and comes and lands at the end. And it tells you, like why you're having this conversation, what the challenge is, and how you're solving the problem. And I think that's I think that's the thinking that's missing from a lot of companies as they go to market.
You lead with a story, and it's the story has to be honest. It's got to not just add value, but it's got to be a passion. When I go to these companies or I talk to these entrepreneurs, I think of the 5 Ps, and it's just a mnemonic that helps me. I mean, you've got to have a great product made by great people, and an original process, something that's different, something that is part of the story, and you've got to have great passion, and those 4 lead to profit, because if you've got the right components, the right people, you're saying the right thing, and your product speaks for itself, then people are going to be interested. Because the more it comes from the heart now, the more it's going to go into the wallet now. I mean, people want earnest innovation. They want real solutions. A great example of that in terms of content tools. Chris, you sent me an invitation from it's a presentation platform. I mean, this thing was done in a pivot. If you haven't checked it out, it's mmhhmm.com.
mmhmm.com.
Oh yeah,
I'll put a link.
I mean, these guys, again, necessity is the mother of invention, and if you're in a position where you need to think on your feet and you've got to move because everything changes, it really it shows the value you can add in just how you think. An idea is the most powerful virus, more than COVID-19. If you can take that idea, get it to your audience, get a great camera like you guys have done and have a cool podcast, or, talk about it and have a conversation strategy, I think you're winning. But the key of all of this is, I think, that honesty and that passion that goes behind it. Because everybody right now, I mean, everyone's got the case of the COVID blues. You go from, drinking straight gin, which people think is water, to crying on a Saturday on the couch watching reruns of 30 for 30 on ESPN. You're like, this happened 2 years ago, So you gotta let it all hang out. I'm wearing a flannel. I'm not wearing a Ted Baker button up with a, pair of slacks, and I haven't showered and I haven't combed my hair. It's like, okay, I own that. But what I'm saying isn't going to change. And I think that's the difference, is an honest approach to everything you do.
Genuineness.
And again, genuine, sincerity. In 2021, I do think there's going to be a rebound when the event industry comes back online, hospitality comes back online, airlines come back online. People are going to see the roaring 20s, the real roaring 20s, the 2020s.
So Adam, I just wanted to say thank you to, and Josh Rush is not here, who is also with Echelon, who's been helping us out. You guys did an amazing job at helping us, bring this idea to, life. And even though it didn't ever happen, there were a lot of good things came out of it, and I appreciate your effort. Now, I also want to thank all of our sponsors, and I'll put together some rolling logos here or something of our sponsors so that everybody can see who they were, because we really appreciate them, and we wish them the absolute best success. They all had great and passionate teams and really interesting ideas, and hopefully they survive well in this current environment. So we're rooting for everybody. And Adam, thank you again. And Sundish and I both appreciate very much everything everybody did for us. So,
well, thanks for having me back on the show. Honestly,
big time.
I'm not even wearing pants.
Yeah,
the pants sales have gone in the toilet, man. It's no reason to wear pants. I'm just gonna put on my Tabitha
Nobody's
Brown
buying pants.
Shirt, because now I'm all about TikTok celebrities.
Yes,
I can if I want to, because it's my business. Tabitha Brown. And if you haven't seen her on TikTok, she's a great cooking show. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, if you like what you saw, please click on that like button, hit that subscribe button, because that helps us a ton. And if you want to get notified when we post new content, click on that bell icon, and I will see you in the next video.